What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Adventure Pod number 8. We're going to be talking about spoilers. We're going to be talking about probably what we did in Nationals. We're going to be talking about quite a bit today. I'm excited to get into it with Ryan over here. Uh, a little bit of news. Ryan finally has a Twitter. You should see on screen. Just happened as we were preparing for this. But yeah, I'm super excited to get into another podcast. It's been quite a bit. Ryan, what are you excited to talk about today?
All these spoilers, and especially some of the ones that we should have coming up tomorrow, even. I feel like we almost need to record multiple podcasts just this week to keep up.
I know. I'm so excited because spoiler season was originally supposed to start on like the first or something, or like the 31st. And we got like our first teaser with like the tall Timmy, and then Flake had his own, and then the French podcast that I cannot say their name had another one today that we're going to talk about all of it. And it was like Christmas came early. So excited.
Oh, yeah, basically. And then as soon as it gets to the beginning of November, it suddenly drops us with how many did you say? Like 15
Yeah, I think
all
on
at
the
once?
first there's 15 scheduled spoilers. So I mean, I don't know, considering how like the spoiler season changed and everything, I don't know if like that's changed at all. If like maybe those some of those will come out earlier, but as of right now, it's supposed to be like 15 uh scheduled spoilers on the first. And I don't know, I'm excited for Dynasty. I love the way these cards look. We'll be popping them up on the screen if you guys are watching. Um, and not just listening, we'll be popping them out on the screen. The marvels of these are really cool. I think it's really cool that they're going with this like each set has a different looking kind of like how marvels look is a little different. At least that's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, they're giving us like the prettiest of the cards with the Marvels, but even like Powder Keg, for example, one of the cards we'll talk about, like that's just one of the Majestics for Mechnologist, and even it just having the themed imagery on the card itself without the black border and everything still looks great.
Absolutely. All right. And so we're going to talk about spoilers. We're going to talk about Nats, and then I kind of want to touch on how you feel about Talishar maybe a little bit later, because that's kind of a hot topic in the community. I mean, we're a little late to the party because it's been a while since we recorded, but I'm really excited to play more on Talishar. I think it's done really good things for the community. I wasn't super big on having an online client, but this fan-made one has actually done pretty well for itself so far, and I'm excited to definitely play more of it.
I was gonna say we may not have talked about it yet, but we definitely have started using it, so
Okay.
we're definitely not unfamiliar.
We need to start topping events again like we were in the early days. So,
That'd
uh,
be nice.
awesome. All right, so I'm gonna get right into it. Oh, but first, I want to thank the Haven Games for sponsoring this podcast and this channel and our live streams. You could save 10% on Flesh and Blood singles using promo code TeamACG at checkout at the Haven Tabletop.com. You can see that code right on your screen, and then there will be a link in the description as well. And I just want to thank them. They are a huge support for us, and a lot of what we do is thanks to them, especially the streaming. So yeah, they already have great prices on singles and all that stuff. Pretty much competitive with TCG players. So if you're going to save 10% on top of that, it's pretty good. So that being said, let's jump right into the first spoiler. That first spoiler was spoiled by the Tall Timmy. That is Merciless Battle Axe. Merciless Battle Axe is a warrior weapon, axe two-handed weapon. It has a base attack of 3. It costs 3 to swing, and its effect reads: whenever Merciless Battle Axe attacks, if its attack is greater than twice its base power, the attack gains overpower. And overpower is a new keyword, and it means it's kind of like dominate, but it says this can't be defended by more than one action card specifically. So, as where dominate is any one card from hand, this is one action card no matter where it came from. So, if you Art of War an action card from your arsenal, that's still the only one.
Yeah, which is an interaction we don't see too much, but I think it's a cool keyword, especially when you have the ability to like buff it ahead of time. Or when most classes, like especially aggro classes, don't play defense reactions at all. It makes it so that it has an easier time hitting. So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, with on-hit effects is like Dorinthia or the what's it called? Warrior's Valor, for example. Like
Okay.
just being able to make sure it gets go again. But as we already pointed out before, this thing has a heavy attack cost.
Yeah, and I want to say already that I don't really see a whole lot of synergies yet. with any of the card pool, right? So the only, uh, I mean, you have some warrior. I think a lot of the warrior non-attack actions don't necessarily have to target a sword or anything like that. But even then, like because this costs three, and if you're starting to play cards to buff it even more, and then if any of those cards have a cost, it's starting to get really heavy in resource costs. So I'm excited to see if they come out with something, I don't know, that reduces the cost of a weapon, something like that. Maybe we can get some synergies that way. The only card that I know of that any warrior can use that will directly synergize with this, it doesn't even really synergize that well, which is Spill Blood. Spill Blood being that +2 on an axe and dominate. But if you're doing that, like you already have, like I'd almost think that hatchets would be the better way to go in any of the warriors that we currently have. If you're going the Spill Blood route, because you get it says all axes you control gain the +2 and dominate, and then this thing's effect kind of isn't great. Like it's like almost as a blank card at that point if you're playing Spillblood as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it becomes redundant, and the axes only hit for one less base damage to start when compared to the 3 cost of this one. So aside from like sharpened steel, which is at least free for +3 on your next weapon attack, I don't see any synergies yet that make this axe like anything more than just a worse version of the other weapons we have now for the current warriors. But usually they come out with when they release stuff like this with previous sets, like even with the weapons we don't see having much use these days, like the what was the needle called again? The ninja needle.
Oh, oh my goodness, the one from Crucible of War.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the shotgun for Mechnologist.
Hmm.
Like all of the Mechnologist's other cards synergize with like the same theme of like the longer the actual combat chain goes unbroken, the
Right.
like more bonus effects. So the more times you boost on the combat chain, the more bonus effects you get. So I feel like there's going to be something that, or even someone that makes better use of this than the current heroes we have. Because I mean, yeah, unless you sharpen steel and then I don't know, maybe Bolton a bit, and like maybe you charged with Bolton's ability and then did go again to give it that extra +1 when they defend, so it's more than twice. But at that point, you've already passed the defense step once they do that, so even that doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's a really hefty cost for what it does
Yeah, it's
so
really
far.
interesting too, and it's like a baby dominate. I don't want to say baby dominate, I guess, but it's like a lesser dominate, where I think dominate's more universal and more it can be more crippling. The only thing really that gets around dominate, I mean, we have way more instances that kind of block now, like Oasis Respite and Sand Cover for Draconic Illusionist. But in the past, typically you needed that either armor or a defense reaction in Arsenal specifically. And so I just feel like that's typically like if they're going the more defensive route, they might have that. Whereas this is like it doesn't really get around that same issue that Dominate had, where if they're planning for it, it doesn't do as much. Like Dominate kind of can be like a blank keyword as well if they're already planning on defending that way. Like with the again with those instance or defense reactions from Arsenal. Uh, so yeah, it's just gonna this card I think is I don't want to call it bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's too early for that. I think it just needs more support. I think it needs there has to be more coming either the rest of this set, but we've also seen in other expansion sets they've released something, even just something like Icelander, right? They released something in an expansion set. You can play it, but it doesn't have all of its support. And then Icelander in the next set got all of her Ice Wizard cards and all that good stuff. Whereas this card might be some more of the same, where even in this set we might see more cards that can work with it. We might even see overpower synergies, right? Where it could be like an attack reaction. This is just pure speculation, but like an attack reaction, right? Let's say it costs 3 but adds 4 or something like that, but it's free if your attack already has overpower or something like that. Something where it synergizes with overpower in some way.
Or maybe even something that preemptively discounts the cost of the axe itself by fulfilling some requirements or other.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
the only other thing I could think of is that maybe there's a hero ability or equipment that's supposed to synergize with this specifically. Um, because we've already seen overpower on another card we'll talk about, so it's gonna start. It's definitely gonna be a keyword, possibly even just from this set itself.
right.
That they're trying to synergize with other cards that they're gonna release.
Overpower
Equipment.
reminds me of something we've kind of seen in other card games too, whereas you have like these like really powerful effects, like Dominate, and then as you get farther down the development line, you start to realize that these I don't want to say overpowered effects, but these really powerful effects are kind of limiting in card design in the sense that like, oh, because Dominate exists, maybe this would be too strong if we printed Dominate on this card, right? Um, Whereas you kind of have like this almost like reverse power creep. Well, we can do this cool thing, and it's going to be like Dominate, but it has more play around, right? Like it has more that you can do in response to it. And so
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of the thought that went into that, into the overpower mechanic. But it is interesting, and it can be very good, especially if overpower is easier to get to than Dominate. You know, not every class has access to it. Warrior has it a little bit with Iron Song Determination, uh, but not too much. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think that's all I have for the Battle Axe. I think it's a interesting card that just needs more support, and we'll have to see
I think
what
it's
they do with it.
Oh yeah, and I think it's funny that Overpower itself is a card in the Warriors. Isn't that the name of the really powerful attack reaction that Warriors have?
Yeah, red overpower, nothing
So
like
when I
it.
first Yeah, so when I first saw that, I was like, maybe this is just a new Warrior keyword specifically. But then, like I
Mm,
said, we saw it. We've already seen it on another card that we'll talk about soon. So it seems more like a keyword sometimes, like they did with at least so far with Everfest, they introduced like Heave, for example,
right.
which we haven't seen since then. But then again, we haven't seen new Guardian cards since then. Maybe they'll bring it back now, or maybe it's just a keyword for that set for the cards that were on it. So it'll be interesting to see what keywords come back and which ones maybe just get specific focus during this set.
Absolutely. All right, and so you said it's going to be the next card. It literally is the next. It's going to be soon. It's literally the next card we're going to talk about. So the next card we're going to talk about is another weapon. So far, what we've seen mostly from these spoilers has been weapons or equipment in some way. So this one is Hanabi Blaster. It's a mechanologist weapon, two-handed gun. It has a base attack of 5, and it reads, once per turn action, remove 2 steam counters from Hanabi Blaster attack. It has overpower, just has overpower whenever you attack with it. And then the third time you play a card with boost each turn, put a steam counter on Hanabi Blaster. So unlike other guns we've seen from Dash, or Mechanologist, I guess in general, where you would pay a resource to put a steam counter on either an item or the gun or something like that, this is a triggered effect to get a steam counter. And you need to do it. You need to boost twice, or sorry, you need to boost 3 times in a turn twice. And on that second turn, you can be able to attack with it. Uh, and the second time you've boosted that third time in a turn, you'll have that second steam counter and you'll be able to attack with it. I kind of want to bring up Powder Keg as well because I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with the blaster itself. So Powder Keg is an action that we also got. Powder Keg reads, it's a first of all, it's a majestic mechanologist item action card. It pitches for 3, has a cost of 0, and it says whenever a mechanologist gun you control hits, you may destroy powder keg and a defending equipment. That's insane.
Well, it's even more insane when you realize some of its interactions with other Mechnologist action cards that we got in some of our previous sets already. And the fact that the blaster itself also has overpower built in
Right,
without any like prerequisites. It just has it.
right.
So,
I think, honestly, I think that's the biggest thing is that like you can go at this at 2 angles, right? You can either go the Hanabi Blaster route, which has 5 attack and overpower on it, which is makes it very likely to hit, right? And if you've T-boned them a couple times or something like that, which is what you were talking about, maybe their good
hmm
equipment to block is already on the chain. And so when you attack with the Hanabi Blaster and they can only defend with that one action card, and they're like two block equipment's already on the chain somewhere, and they can't physically block, like through game actions, they can't block all of it, or they have to use like an action card and a defense reaction, which feels really bad because then you're defending for like 7 or something like that. It feels really inefficient. Uh, it's a way to snipe equipment in a fun way we haven't seen before.
Yeah, especially when you at least have the safety of knowing that once you set up the powder keg, you don't have to destroy it until you've fulfilled the requirements. So
No, and
you're
it's a
kind
triggered
of always
effect.
threatening it. Yeah.
It's a triggered effect, and it's a May. That's the biggest thing too, right? So it's not like whenever a mechanologist gun you control hits, destroy target defending equipment or something like that, or
Hmm.
destroy powder keg, then destroy a defending equipment. If it were worded like that, it would be pretty bad because then you would have to destroy it even if there was a defending equipment, or if there was or was not a defending equipment. But it's worded in a way that you can like set it up and you could still attack with your gun and not worry about like wasting your powder keg.
Yeah, the only downside to powder keg is that it doesn't work with the mechnologist's like favorite pistol right now because it's a
No,
pistol, not a gun.
that's true, but I
It's a
think the other shotgun
it is a gun.
is a
Yes,
gun.
the other one is definitely a gun. I feel like the mechnologist would prefer to use the Hanabi Blaster though, so
Yeah,
I
if you're
think it's
going that
main
powder keg
synergy
route.
for now. Yeah, your main
Yeah.
synergy is with this weapon now. Dude, who wouldn't want to though? This thing is cool. Like just
No,
the
yeah.
design itself with the vault picture itself. Its requirement 2 doesn't even require to use resources to go ahead and build it up. And it doesn't have a limit on Steam counters, so you can go a few turns without using it and build up a couple, and then use them on back-to-back turns even.
And I think just the synergy that you were saying or that we brought up already with T-Bone, getting like pulling that equipment up to the front, and even like so you used to be able to get around T if like they only did if you only T-bone like once, right, and they only put up one equipment, a lot of times there's something like a Goliath gauntlet or something along those lines that has a 0 attack, or I'm sorry, 0 defense, and then they kind of just get around T-Bone that way. T-Bone doesn't really do anything in that scenario. But one thing that's really funny is that even if you do just one like that, where it's one T-Bone, and they put up a Goliath gauntlet, now you could, if anything, you could still kill the Goliath gauntlet.
Yeah, just it's something that they throw up because it doesn't waste its block or blade breaks,
Hmm.
but then you can still go ahead and destroy it because it's forced up there anyway.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I mean, it's crazy. Now you have to be careful if you're defending with a shield of any kind. I know, like, typically you want to, like, if you're going against mechanologists, a ram's head is usually like pretty good because they tend to break the chain quite often between like their chest piece and really their chest piece. If they have to use the chest piece to get anywhere, then that's a non-attack action that breaks the chain. So you could usually get good value out of the ram part of the ram's head. But now you just have to be careful throwing that thing up to see if you can get any blocks out of it because they could just say like, all right, Hanabi Blaster, defend it. You know, I mean, you'll see it coming because they'll have the powder keg on the field. But it, if that's the case and you play around it, you just don't block with your ram's head, then that's also bad, right? You're also not getting value out of your ram's head. So it's awesome. I love that they're doing this where it's like they're making it so you can target equipment, kill equipment, but none of it's been easy, right? None of it's been like, so we have like liquefy, you have to get to like rupture, the ruptured, uh, the fourth chain link has to hit, uh, you just have to get there, like, it's not just like you play rupture and you kill an equipment. No, you have to get to the fourth chain link. The fourth chain link has to hit. Then you rupture as an attack reaction. Then you kill the equipment. That's difficult because then the rupture doesn't even help you get to, or I'm sorry, the liquefy doesn't even help you get to get to the rupture chain link.
Hmm.
What's another one? Tomaltai. Tomaltai is a 5 cost in a deck that wants to run a bunch of reds, so he's hard enough to summon. Then you have to flip
And
over
he's a
2 cards.
legendary, so you can only run one
You
of
can only
him.
run one, and then you have to flip 2 red cards off the top, or at least 1 red card, but typically 2 red cards to kill anything you really want to kill. Uh, then you get to target equipment. The one nice thing about Tomaltai is your opponent can't interact. Once Tomaltai's on the field, he can't like pretty much they're gonna do what they want to do, right? The Tomotai is gonna either hit or not hit. And what else? I think.
There's Shatter and Mangle.
Oh, and Shatter.
Shatter requires them to voluntarily block it, and for you to have it in hand in the first place. And then Mangle requires you to have a -1 counter first before the equipment can even be targeted. And Crush.
Right.
So, yeah, equipment's never been super easy to destroy in this game. Um,
And it shouldn't be,
and I
I
th-
think. It should be
no, of
killable,
course.
but it shouldn't be easy.
No, of course not. I think Liquefy might have been the easiest if we're talking about just like a random fourth hit if you have it in hand with like maybe Kadachis
Hmm.
to extend that chain link for Rupture was maybe the easiest way. But even then, like ninjas trying to run that consistently in their deck, like they just didn't
But
work
on
with
top of
that.
that, it's a non-damaging
It
card
doesn't even add
in
damage, yeah.
a deck that wants to do damage, and that fourth link has to hit, which they might be like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to block this. Like,
Exactly.
um, yeah, no, I'm also another thing about this gun that's really interesting is it doesn't require any resources innately to swing. So I'm wondering, even if we don't go the powder keg route, like let's say powder keg's too slow, it doesn't have go again. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying, like even if we don't go that route, just just the fact that it's like remove two steam counters, attack, and these steam counters come from like already doing like your boost dash game plan. I'm wondering if like Hanabi Blaster's good enough on its own to just see play, right? Like I think it's really good. I think coming in for 5, which is already over that 3 break point. If this was 4, I'd still say it's good. But the fact that it's 5, I think is really good.
I think it's going to be good in aggro dash because the only downside is that you can't attack with every turn, it's every other turn. Because it puts a steam
Yeah,
counter after the third boosted attack.
right.
So if you do that every turn, every other turn you'll be able to fire for the 5 extra damage at the end of the chain,
That's a
which is
lot.
insane.
Yeah. I will say this, it probably kills Talishar. Not the online client, but the people that were running. I think that list that won a calling. I don't remember. It
Yeah,
won,
I think it was a calling or battle hardened,
um,
one of those.
but
But yeah, I
it
know
was
which
a
one you're
boost
talking about.
dash that was running Talishar because in the aggro matchups that was like its best weapon. Right, like pistol wasn't very good. The shotgun's never been very good. At least the Crucible of War one, just because you have to close the chain a lot of the times to get to a high boost count, and it only cares about how many attacks are on the chain. So if you do that, then it's just very difficult to get the maximum value out of it.
Exactly, but this just has 5 straight up, and you don't even need to preload it or waste resources
Nope.
on an aggro turn to go ahead and get it ready. It's just every 2 turns it'll load itself and be ready to fire.
That's
That's
awesome. I
crazy.
love
This
the
thing is
design of this
insane.
thing. I think it's so cool, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to play with.
And it's never, in my opinion, broken when Mechnologist has the bonus of being consistent because all the cards have just boost on them. So that's where, all the go again comes from. But you're burning through your deck twice as fast
Right.
when you do it. So it never feels like uh what's the word I'm looking for? It never feels like maybe another class that has like these high power cards up to 6 power with built-in go again just for like built I'm saying it has a fair cost is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And
And
then
it's like sometimes you
yeah,
fatigue them, sometimes they don't, but sometimes they have tools in their like the Mechnologist card pool that you can use to like help get over that. Like some items give you dominate, boosted damage, powder keg to destroy items or equipment. Like it's a fun back and forth that this game offers with a little bit of RNG from being a card game.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like super fun. I love the design of this thing. I think it's really cool the lore they've also been attaching to these. Like I think the lore this was like they were giving this Metrix was giving this to the Emperor as like a token of like, hey, like we're friendly. But then it was like the Emperor was like, why would you give this to your people? Now your people aren't afraid of you anymore and you can't control them. It's just like a fun like in-world kind of thing that they did with the spoilers this time around, and I think it's really cool. Also, the fact that they're all like in the throne room, like on display, like adds to the flavor so much. I think they're hitting it out of the park. I'm excited for the set for sure.
Each one has a little bit of a different background too, to show different like little bits of architecture or design with
Right.
some of the art, statues, tapestries in the throne rooms. Yeah, it's all very revealing of everything that is Volcor that we can see for now.
Absolutely. All right, so we have one more spoiler to go over, and that is the Amethyst Tiara. Amethyst Tiara is a rune blade equipment. It's a headpiece. It has one defense. Its effect reads instant, destroy Amethyst Tiara. Rune chance you control have Spell Void 1 this turn. And then, of course, has Blade Break. So if you defend with it, you have to lose it when the combat chain closes. What are
I
your
think
first
this is
thoughts?
a I think this is pretty insane. It's something you can bring into the wizard matchup, or even have as maybe even just your if you really wanted to cut down on the 80 card deck space and you didn't want to bring too many multiple helmets, having one defense over two, like the Crown of Providence, is not the worst thing. But I think that against like the wizard matchup, if you're like a old school Viserai, not trying to burn your rune chance after every attack, I think this is great to have that extra bit of, arcane barrier when the wizard tries to go in for the kill, or maybe when you have like an all red hand when they try and do that. So I think it's a great card.
The one
And
thing. Go ahead, finish
mm,
your point.
I was gonna say it's almost telling because I think we read in the recent ban list that they permanently banned like Bloodchief Skeleton from Blitz now, um, because they like suspect or they want to prepare for future interactions with other rune chant heroes. We might even be seeing one sooner than we think because they're adding something like this. Or, this could just be for a while just mostly a Viserai intended or Viserai designed card for all we know.
Right.
But it's interesting to think about.
That's true. The one thing I'll say about this is it's face up on the table, right? So you're not gonna gotcha your wizard opponent with this. You're not gonna. It's not like they're gonna go in for the kill and like you play like an instant out of your hand. That's like, no, my rune chants now have spell void. Like it's gonna be interesting to see the play into this. And one thing to also note is that rune blades very often aren't just sitting with a stockpile of rune chants. Even Viserai, Viserai is typically like at most right now. And again, I'm saying typically. I know there's games where they get more, or I don't know, but typically the most you'll see on a Viserai is after a Revel. Even a Revel Mordred Tide is what, like 7 rune chants, I think.
Hmm.
It's like 4, then it's like 5, and then 2 off Viserai typically. So 7 rune chants you have at once, but then you're saying like, I'm not gonna swing my sword with those 7 rune chants, which is like
Well, that's not gonna work either because the Revel kills the rune chance at the end of
exactly. Oh,
turn.
that's a good point too. So, and even then, so let's say you have 7 rune chants, and if the wizard's on anything above like 3, they can be like, oh, I'll let that rune chant finish. I'll let that rune chant finish. Maybe I'll like defend like because they all are separate layers, right? And the wizard can choose when to pop off, right? So I'll let that one finish. I'll let that one finish, and then I'll pitch a blue into 3 more, and now you have 2 left, and now you can crack your helmet if you want, but I still have lethal. Like it's
Can I
something
say,
that I'm like thinking about. I
yeah,
think more so, honestly, when I read this card, I almost read it like for the mirror more than against wizards.
I will say I do see that there is something interesting to be said, both for that and the new warrior wizard himself.
Yeah, that's also true.
Um, because it has blade break, but while it's on the chain, if they don't break the chain when they cast like whatever arcane damage they're about to do, you can break it as an instant when the chain closes before it breaks to at least get the effect off until the end of turn two.
Right.
So
That's
you
really
can
true.
technically
That's a good point.
you can use both ways of defending with it on the same turn, and against other rune blades and the wizard warrior, I suspect it'll have use against both of them technically.
Yeah, against Rune Blades, we'll have to get to a point where we're playing Viserai a little bit differently, where we
Hmm.
are kind of like how we used to play Viserai, where starting your
That's what
turn,
I was saying. Yeah.
yeah, starting your turn without a rune chant felt really bad in the past. This was
Oh yeah.
before, like, it wasn't really before Mauvrian Skies, actually. It was during Crucible, but really just, I don't know, just the way the deck was formulated, it just felt more like you played a lot more, also like reduced to rune chants, right? And those felt really bad if you didn't have a rune chant. You had to pay 1 into it.
Oh
not where
yeah.
you want to be for a 4 block on a defense reaction. Um, and so this card, especially into the Runeblade Mirror, would want to be in decks more like that, I think, where you're actually running, or not running, but like you're stockpiling rune chants as opposed to just like I make 5 of them and throw them all at you, like deal with it every turn.
Yeah, back
So
in the day, if you had one rune chance at least to end your turn, you were at least happy about that. But if you had any more, it's like going into your next turn, it's like you could have so many more things unlock with some like amplify or rune flashes. So yeah, it'd be nice
yeah,
to see a little return back to that. I keep saying I'd like to see kind of a return to that more tempoed gameplay instead of just every hand is just all cards at once, all aggro at once kind of hands for Viserai.
right.
Um, but we'll see. That's why I'm kind of excited to see what other stuff comes out with expansion sets like this, because we always get something new for every class.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Another thing to think about that I was kind of thinking about is like how much better is this than just running like, and I know it's different, it's a piece of armor, but like what's the card Runeblood barrier, where that kind of does the same thing. I get it's for a turn or two, or however long it lasts on the field, but at least that gives you a bunch of rune chance,
Yeah, the
right? You know what
difference
I'm
is you
saying?
don't have
Like,
yeah, you don't have an option with that one though. So if you're about to take any damage, it has to go through all your rune chants first, before it can go to you. At least with this one, it's spell voids. You have to conscientiously like say how many rune chants are gonna blow up to defend arcane
oh,
damage.
you know what? That's a good point. You know, it's I honestly I didn't even think of that. I thought like I almost was like reading them as like spectral shields, or it's like they become like arcane spectral shields. But like you have a point. Like spell void, even after they have spell void, is a choice, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
even like if they're coming at me, like a wizard attacks me for 5, right? And I just happen to have 3 rune chants, but I don't want to do that. I have a blue and a couple null rune. I can still, let's say, pitch a blue into that and then crack the helmet. And let's say I just want to use up 1 or 2 of my rune chants and leave one floating, like leave one around. I don't
Yeah.
have to like I can choose not only the replacement effect, but even if I wanted to take a hit, I can say like no, I'll just crack 1 rune chant. I know this is a really bad example, but just in general, you can like crack 1 rune chant, leave the other 2, take the damage. You don't have to use all of it. You
Yeah,
use all of your rune
exactly.
chants. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Um, it still remains to
Now,
be seen how good that is. Again,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I don't know how many times that's gonna be super relevant, like when you want to use it, but uh uh if there was like some effects where no, that's just what Tiger Stripe's doing right now. No, when you mentioned the spectral shields, it reminded me of how Tiger Stripe can go through all spectral shields without them being able to do anything, because then it has to go through them.
mhm.
Um, at least with choosing, you could say, "Oh, I'm not even gonna bother using the spell void on these because it's not gonna work in some way." Oh, Swarming Gloomveil. Technically, if you got hit with the 4 damage, you can't block Arcane for the rest of the turn. That means spell void wouldn't work on those either, so you wouldn't have to pop them to waste them.
That's a good point too.
Um,
I guess my
but
final point on the tiara is I think it cannot be understated how much it means that this card is face up on the table at all times. So I just really think that like its effect needs to be so good that even like your opponent knowing that it's there, I don't want to say can't play around it, but it's very difficult to play around it. Like knowing that
yeah.
it's not like again, it's not like it's gonna come out of nowhere, right? Like
Hmm.
you have it like, oh, I'm starting the game with Amethyst Tiara on the field. So at any point I can crack this and stop arcane damage with my rune chance. I don't know.
No, or we could just wait for Taylor to become an adult hero or actual legal hero, and then she can put it on her sideboard.
This is true.
What class is she? Class, quote unquote, is she?
A shapeshifter.
She is a shapeshifter. Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
the shapeshifter or Roomblade.
All right, I think
Uh,
that's all the spoilers. We do have one more spoiler that we know of. Well, we have 6 coming from Team Covenant apparently, but I think some of that's because they have the regular and the Marvel. I don't think it's
yes.
6 OG cards. And then we also have a bow. So I don't want to speculate too much on the Covenant stuff because we don't know a lot of it. All we know,
Not like all of it as a whole anyway, no.
yeah, all we know is that we're getting a bow tomorrow from Go Again Gaming. I don't know if we want to speculate too much on it. I mean, the reveal's like 12 hours away, so it's like not like this recording will actually go up probably after that gets spoiled. But it'd be
Nah, we could
interesting
be
to
like,
see.
oh, we're looking at it from the past, yo.
But it'll
Because
be interesting
I
to
have some
see.
things I'd like to guess. Like here, oh no, we
Go
could
ahead.
say
Go
that
ahead.
because we recorded this ahead of time. We said
Hmm.
so. One of the things that's definitely going to be present that was on Dreadbore is that it's not going to specify if you have a completely empty arsenal, so that maybe other like again, just like Dreadbore could allow Azalea to use New Horizon. This one should synergize with New Horizon as well.
Yeah, I agree
Instead
with
of
that.
like the reload mechanic being like, oh, you need to have no cards in arsenal right now. So something like that probably.
I think New
Um,
Horizon is basically Evergreen and Ranger at this point. Like I think they realize how not great Rangers performed and that the way their mechanics work, they kind of need a second Arsenal slot. So I think we're gonna see that
yeah, it
they
really removed
are.
the flexibility to like save a defense reaction or something. And that was always my biggest grievance compared to other classes, is I couldn't save a card by card or like a specific card in my arsenal to play against the matchup I'm currently sideboarded in for. Like it's either I use it immediately or it gets pitched and cycled. So, but that's definitely going to be one thing I'm certain is going to be part of its new text, is that it's not going to lose synergy with the New Horizon like Death Dealer and Redliner did.
Yeah, I mean,
Other than that, I honestly can't say what it would do.
I I
Like,
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I don't know how you fix. I don't know if you need to say fix, but I don't know how you make a bow that doesn't already exist. That like does bow things better, if you know what I mean. Like Death Dealer. Death Dealer says load an arrow, draw a card, and that alone, the fact that it like replaces the arrow at least, like should be insane. Like should be really good,
yeah.
and it
Can
just
I
isn't.
can I actually throw out a guess that just came to mind?
Sure,
So
bring
I
it.
don't know if this is being slightly influenced by me knowing some of like old what's it, old Chinese like military weaponry that I used to see randomly on either Discovery Channel or something back in the day.
All right.
But I will say what would be a cool effect, something that they invented was like the automatic like bow.
All
It would
right.
be kind of cool. It would be kind of cool if it had like just not once per turn, but action, pay one, load if you have an empty arsenal slot, load a face-up arrow into your arsenal, go again. So it's
I
kind
just
of
like you
like
can load it
death.
as much as you want.
Yeah, so that's the thing that always bugged me about like even what was it called?
Voltaire.
Bolton shot. Bolton
Oh,
shot.
okay,
The
yeah.
fact that you could get it, have it have go again, but if you don't hit and you use that to load with like Death Dealer or something,
Hmm.
that's it. Your go again doesn't mean anything if you're trying to use another
Yeah, at
arrow,
least as far
even
as
if you have
arrows are
floating
concerned.
resources.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, so the bow just allows it to be used. So long as you use an extra resource to load the arrow in question, you can load multiple ones per turn in case you have like rapid fire with go again or Bolton shots and you don't hit because they just block the on hit effect. I think that would be fair. You still have to use resources, and you still need to have just all the cards in hand. Albeit three of a kind is a card that exists in Ranger's inventory. I think that would be. But yeah, I think it would just make flexible go again cards in Ranger like more reliable or less
What if I told
clunky.
you that it
Yeah.
said this will never happen?
Oh
But
yeah.
like, what if they embrace the fact that Ranger's like a toolkit hero?
Hmm.
This will literally never happen, but it sounds awesome. And it just said pay two. search your deck for an arrow and place it face up in an empty arsenal slot. Like just any arrow every turn. The one that you need for
Imagine
that situation.
Imagine how easy it is to just always get Red in the Ledger on demand. I feel like Azalea would just become meta just for that one fact.
That'd be
Red in the
great.
Ledger is such an impressive card on its own. Like it's thankfully it's only 3 still, so you'd have to shuffle it back in to use it after those 3 shots, but that would be wild. That would be I don't there's no way they do that
There's
because you
no way
can't
they
just
do
put
it, but
search you can't make search cards that available.
on a
Like
weapon every turn.
no. That would be so wild though.
Knock the death whistle just becomes usable for dominate and nothing else. Because that's a good point though. It's kind of balanced in Azalea because it would never have dominate. At least not with Azalea's
Correct.
ability.
It wouldn't have dominate with Lexi either, because that has to happen with Shiver with the bow going from hand to arsenal.
Exactly.
So,
How good is Red in the Ledger when you know you just got to give it 2 cards? There you go. It's fine.
Memorial Ground stocks go up because it's always in your graveyard at the like even after
Oh,
turn
that's a
one.
good point.
Oh, so easy.
All right, so 2 more topics I want to cover real quick. I think the first one we
Yeah.
should go over is Nats. Let's go over our Nats. So we didn't have the most uh what's the word? Competitive
Astounding performance.
astounding performance. So
There you go.
I was in Nats. Unfortunately, you weren't. You didn't make it this time, but we'll make sure you get there next year. Definitely not.
Oh yeah.
No more. No team ACG left behind. Everyone will get a Nats invite next year. That being said, I was in Nats. Played Dromai. Wish I hadn't. So right before Nats started, I was actually fooling around with Briar and a Briar deck, and I was uh, playing the. I tried the Matt Folks list, the one that won Pro Tour, PT2. That list is insane. I loved playing it, and I don't know why I didn't play it. But I went with my. I was a Prism main before she LL'd, and so I just went to Dromai. And while I don't think Dromai is bad in any sense of the word, I do think Dromai just feels like she's missing something. A lot of the deck just is like defensive nothing cards. Like you just stall the game and you're trying to get these dragons out, trying to like make your opponent make bad decisions on which ones to kill or not to kill. But then at the end of the day, it feels like they can make bad decisions anyway because they trigger a lot of your opponent's on hit effects. And I'm not even talking about Mask of Momentum too much. I'm talking about like Mauvrian Skies, things like that, where like these like more punishing on hit effects when they hit a dragon, things like that. So I had some good games, good turns, but I kind of just didn't have a really good performance going into Nats or coming out of Nats really. But that being said, my weekend was awesome. I mean, we played the calling. Didn't do too well in that either, but it's okay. Um, but really, like, kind of one of the most fun events that I hate to say this, but it was a lot of fun, and we performed really well at it. Was the team uprising sealed, where like
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
everyone gets 4 packs, and you open them, and everyone has to play one hero from that set. So we had an Icelander, which was you. We had me on Dromai, and our other friend slash teammate Alex on Fi.
Bye.
And so, and we wrecked. I mean, the first round we were kind of shaky. We didn't really have a game plan, but like we didn't drop a game after that. We went 3-1. Oh, we got so many tickets. It's so fun.
The fact that they had an event like that, like they officially had like a rule set for it and like the hero rule and everything for it, it like felt really good.
It
Like
was a
almost
lot
like
of
this should
fun.
be like a regular recurring format in like well, when you have like big events like this where a lot of people can
Right.
participate. Cuz like 12 packs split between the team for 3 heroes each. Like it didn't feel like anyone, even like our opponents, even though we like had such a good win streak, like anyone was like short on the cards they had for their heroes. Um so yeah, I felt like in its own way it was like its own balanced formats and its own just kind of more interesting and a little more flexible way of doing sealed, but with a little added bonus of doing it with your friends or teammates.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
fun.
honestly some of the most fun I ever had. I didn't get to do the Vegas thing where it was like the calling with the team blitz and everything where people got to help and everything, like your teammates got to talk to you. Uh, but
That would have been
this
fun.
was this was a lot of fun because we had that experience where it was like there was one moment where I turned to Alex and was like, "Do I block this?" And he's like, "Nah, nah, nah, nah." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, no, no, no." And oh, and the deck building procedure, I mean, I think that was really fun. I mean, we like each built our deck and like showed each other and was like, and we were like, no, 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 cut this card, no, add this card. And then I was like, oh, I think I should have the that all you got because I can make use of the extra card or things like I don't know. It was just like it was fun.
Well, it was fun because we had to make sure we split the pool of generic cards or cards we could all use pretty evenly. Because like optimizing that was the best way of getting to like those
Hmm.
wins, consecutive, consistent wins. Uh, and I think it came down to like making sure we divvied those up properly so that our decks were as consistent as possible compared to our opponents. So
Yeah, and
I think that really made a difference.
we only had two pops, and we were like, who gets them? Like who gets them? I think you ended up with them, right?
Yeah, because I think it was either me or you, because it definitely wasn't Fi. We weren't worried about Fi
Mm-mm.
having poppers in most situations. It was either you, so you could pop. No, it
Namir,
definitely was
it
me
was
because I
you.
wanted to make
I didn't
sure
have them. That's for sure.
because I didn't want to have to rely on having the right power blue in my
Hmm.
arsenal to destroy dragons if I needed to. So yeah, it was definitely me. I remember popping a few.
But
Oh my,
it was so fun. We had some of our most fun opponents in that event too. It's a different vibe from the competitive events, and not to say like I'm a competitive player. I want to be. I really do love those environments, but sometimes when you just sit in these side events and the other teams like screw it, we
it
scrubbed
was
out
the
too.
last day of
Like,
the. It was literally the last event of the weekend. Like after that, they were ready to close down. Like after we got our tickets, they were
yeah,
ready to like wrap up the prize table and get everyone out of there. So yeah, everyone was just ready. Like everything else had been what it was. So players were probably just looking to have fun with their friends, and it's like it was great for that.
no, it really was. It was honestly other than like some of the stuff we did outside of the Nats slash calling, which like probably shouldn't be said on the podcast. We had a lot of fun outside of the event, but like as far as like events inside, what we actually went there to do, um, that team event was probably the most fun event,
Yeah,
most
and
truly
and
entertaining event.
oh yeah. And even getting back to the calling itself that I did, and I went 1-3. The only one I got was when my opponent showed up a few minutes late and got
An
unfortunately got an
IP
IP
penalty.
penalty for it, and then just got up and left. Uh, like that was my only win, and I was playing Rhinar of all things. I didn't feel like any of my like losses were bad though. Like it made me remember like why I like the game so much is that like even in losing, like it feels like it was at least a match each time. There's never like a one-sided fight where I just got like over like handed a loss like from the moment I sat down basically.
There's something to be said about this meta. Thinking of what you just said, where like none of your games felt like you were getting like your ass handed to you. Like it's been like every no, but like honestly, like every game was like
Yeah.
a game, right? I felt more that way about this meta since Monarch happened. Like Crew was like that. We used to praise Flesh and Blood that every game was close. Every game you could have made a decision different. Every game like there was like card choices and things you could have done differently. And then Monarch happened, and then with Monarch came Chain. And Chain was inevitable, like in terms of like he's gonna win if you don't win in turn. If you're not like forcing cards out of his hand by turn three, like you're not in a good spot.
Yeah.
And then we went from Chain to zero cost Briar, and then zero cost
Mm-hmm.
Briar was like Chain except on turn one. Like,
And Starvo.
and then Starvo just said like, "Oh, I'm running 3 Crippling Crush, 3 Oaken Old, and 3 Spinals. Have fun."
And I'm dominating all of them with Go again.
Yeah, and have fun. And I'm throwing an ice. By the way, if you somehow get around that, you're also getting ice hammer to the face. So
Yeah.
that being said, this meta has been way more interesting, way more back and forth. I've seen so many decks that we've written off in the past do well. We have a local player and playing Dorinthia. When I say local player, he's like one of our good friends and owner of the Haven, part owner of the Haven. James has been killing it on Dory. And he's putting a lot of time into that Dory deck, and he actually has choices he can make where he's like, oh, now I need to now I need to face against these ice heroes. What do I do? And it's not just like, oh, Starvo made it, so I don't have go again. I guess I'll die. Like,
No, and then we also have Pedro, who's been playing Azalea and went 3-1 in one of our armories the other day, only losing in the final round to Bravo. But like, one like our basically what I would say is one of our premier Bravo players. Actually, I'd almost say our premier Bravo player for our locals.
mhm.
And like I
Shout out
said,
to
getting to the
Jamie.
final. Yeah, exactly. But then, yeah, getting to the final match with Azalea of all things, against everyone else, and like our locals, I would say have at least all experienced players. We got some new ones, of course, but like we always have a good handful of players who definitely like have been around in the game for a while now. So, props to him for that. I think it's always fun to see, you know, things you don't see every day come to the table, and
Yeah,
just kind of freshen things up every now and then.
which I think we're kind of getting into. It goes hand in hand with the fact that you can bring these more fun decks in this current environment. You may not win the entire armory, but you're going to win some games. Whereas before, it felt like in the Briar, Phi, Chain, even Prism,
Starvo,
like
yeah.
that meta, like it just felt like you were not gonna have fun if you brought
It
any
almost
of
felt
those
like you were
decks.
wasting your time if you
Yeah,
tried to bring anything else or like didn't test enough of whatever you were trying to use to keep up with those specific heroes.
right. And it's like now you have a chance to go like 3-1, 2-2, whereas before it was like 1-3 or 0-4 almost every time.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I mean, because even in Crucible, like you said, like there was an A tier meta. There was two, Dorinthia and Mech at excuse me at the time were definitely the two top like heroes, but that was
I
just in
would throw
terms
a
of
Bravo in there too, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the mechnologists figured out that pistols
Yeah,
were an
I think
easy way
Mech
to
was like
eventually bring them
honestly
down.
like in crew
But
format, Mech was by far the best deck.
it was just a matter of consistency. It's not like they were overpowered necessarily or had something that couldn't be played against, countered, or
Hmm.
prepared for. They just had the most consistency. That's all. That's all. But
Absolutely.
you could still play against them and feel like you had a match to even like run down to, or feel like you played and got better against them by playing against them more.
Speaking
So,
of the meta and how much we like playing in it, do you
mhm.
think Talishar, we kind of mentioned it earlier, do you think Talishar has like helped you navigate the meta a little bit more? Have you, because we've been playing a lot of Talishar. And I want to say like it's been one of the best tools that I've ever experienced in terms of Flesh and Blood. I mean, we had FabDB before, which is a great database tool, but as far as testing goes, you only had TTS really before, and TTS is like fine. It's like fine.
The mod they
It's very
made for
clunky.
TTS really did have everything that you could ask for in it, but with the TTS controls attached to it.
Yes, that's
So
a
like,
good point. That's a really good point. Is that whoever designed the mod, shout out to you. You did a great job. Fantastic. It looks great, plays well. It even has a little button to click the cards underneath your deck when you're done with your turn. Amazing. It's still TTS and has nothing to do with the mod itself. It's still like sometimes I just drew my whole deck. Why?
whoop, whoopsie.
Sometimes things would just like
Oh, why did a card from my opponent's discard get sucked up into my pitch zone?
yeah, things like that where it's just very annoying and very clunky. The one thing I will say about TTS is it's all manual. Other than putting the cards underneath your deck, right? Everything else is manual. So things like your tunic triggers, things like your any other triggered effects that you might have, the way arcane damage works and the way arcane barrier works, you have to know how that all works in order to do it properly. Whereas now you have Talishar kind of just doing it for you. And that's just
That's
something
like
that
good. That's good and bad in my opinion, because you do want to practice. Like people still forget their tunic counters, even
I
at
still forget
our
it every now and
locals these
again.
days. Exactly. Yes, me too. So I'm like, I feel like TTS, at least you'd get the reps in to make sure you were in control of each things, but you also could miss things that you just didn't know about before until like Talishar maybe. And I know Talishar maybe has a few things here and there I think that still need to be just kind of like refined a little bit, but like
Yeah.
Talishar for the most part does everything right in order and kept like tracks everything the way it's supposed
And
to.
on top of that, it has a super active dev community. I'm seeing bug reports listed. I'm seeing like patch notes like all the time. I'm seeing like they just added like I don't know if you saw this, but they just added a new site. I'm sorry, I forget the name, but it's basically letting you draft. You can do like a whole
Oh
draft,
yeah, I heard
and then
about
you do
that.
the
Yeah.
draft, and then when you're done, you import it into Talishar, and then you play your pod in that draft. That's that's the best practice anyone can ask for. It's one of the hardest things to practice in this game is literally just draft, and it has nothing to do with like draft as a format. It has to do with literally just logistics of getting 8 humans together in a room saying let's buy 3 packs and practice drafting.
Exactly. Or having at least a local store hosted on a regular basis to draw people in. Yeah. The
Hmm.
logistics behind that, buying packs, all that stuff, just taking that out so that you can focus on, and of course, not having to worry about value drafting. Uh,
Right.
just focusing specifically on just
Well, thankfully.
practicing or and talking with each other because now you're not
Mhm.
like playing for stakes. You're just playing to get better.
Well, I will say the one thing LSS did, which is put the gold foil in its own slot that's not draftable. That's one of the most genius things I've ever heard of. And whoever came up with that when they were designing Uprising, 2 gold stars. Honestly, like that that is amazing. How many drafts
It
have
is.
been
It's
I
so
mean, you still have legendaries, right? Someone might open a Flamescale Furnace when they're playing Icelander and they say, "Well, I'm not passing this." So, you still have that. And there's still
yeah, but
merit to
even
maybe
then,
not passing it, but
those legendaries having the rainbow foil value make them so much more accessible than they used to be for the past few sets where first edition those cold foils were all you got and you would not pass those up no matter what if you ever saw one.
100%. So,
So
that all being
I'm
said, I think we're just about good. You good? Anything else you want to plug, Ryan? Anything else going on?
oh no, I think we covered everything. I'm at this point I almost want to go to bed so I can get tomorrow sooner so I can see what the hell that boat.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it's like Christmas.
I just want to see what the boat. I've been like props to Pedro getting back on the horse before me for Azalea to try and get her to work or at least just having fun with her, man. But like if I could see something, just a little something to give me and just a little something new to work with, maybe I can make her good again, or maybe I can make her good at all. That's what I meant to say.
So I think on that note, we will get out of here. There are 2 things I want to plug. First of all, I'm going to plug us and our team and our channels. We do stream every single Saturday, our locals. I'm gonna start trying to stream on like Wednesdays or something. It's gonna be me playing like Talishar or something, me hanging out with Ryan or someone else. But that is right here on YouTube and on Twitch, twitch.tv/adventurecogaming, and also just right here on the channel that you're already watching. It's a dual cast kind of thing, so make sure you check us out every single Saturday, locals with commentary. It's not just 2 people talking, it's me talking to you about what's going on in the game, and it's a lot of fun for me, and hopefully a lot of fun for you guys watching. The second thing being, of course, we plugged at the beginning, the Haven Games, the haventabletop.com. Use promo code TEAMACG, save 10% off all of your Flesh and Blood singles. They are a great store, great community. You're shopping local when you do that, right? So a lot of people will have their TCG player affiliate codes, and those are great. I will probably have one too if you're going to shop from TCG player, but please try to use haventabletop.com. First, check them out. They should have pretty much any Majestic or higher card you're looking for at really good prices, and then you put the 10% on top of that, and it's probably one of the best deals in the game. So that all being said, I want to thank you guys for watching up until this point. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you have any suggestions or anything you want to talk about in the comments, please let me know. I love it. If you can, like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And I think we will get out of here. Team Adventure Co. out.
Catch you later.
Peace.